everybody. My name is Ann Cole, and I am the Executive Director of Maryland Federation of Art. I'm joined today in the gallery by Juliana Oakes, who is handling all of our tech issues today. I'm very lucky to have her in here. I hope everybody is staying dry today. We're pretty lucky that we kind of missed all of the horrible effects of Ian, but it is definitely raining and windy. So I hope everybody is safe and dry. Julie's and my day is brightened today because we get to come in and we get to be surrounded by all of our members' artwork as part of the fall member show here in Circle Gallery. I hope that if you haven't made it in yet to see the work in person, that you get a chance to come in. It is up through October 15th, and we are having a closing reception that day from 4 to 6. So if you can't come in between now and the 15th, please definitely try and come in for our reception. I think you'll just really be astounded by how the work looks here in person up on the walls. So as you all know, we host 4 juried member shows every year, and we're excited that Susan Batter agreed to be our juror this year for our fall member show. Susan is formerly an adjunct professor of art history at MICA and was the senior curator for education at the Corcoran Gallery. She also was the executive director of Maryland Art Place and brought her extensive expertise and education to direct education programs at the Baltimore Museum of Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Like I said, we are so happy that we have her here with us today. And with that, Susan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And Julie is going to go ahead and share the PowerPoint.
I love the extensive, whatever. You know, if you live long enough, you get to be extensive in what you do. This is kind of fun. Anyway, thank you all of you who are here, all of you who aren't here. This was staggering, you know, to be sent 460 plus images, and they want a show that's in this sort of 55 to 65 range is enough to make you go pour another glass of wine. There's this statement that I wrote. I'm not going to read it. I figure you all can read English, but I wanted to say how grateful I am to everyone here, everyone who isn't here, who submitted work and let me look at it, and to thank you for continuing to pursue your practice. If artists give up, we are totally screwed, if you'll excuse me. So I think the more you guys keep at it, the more important it is. And I'm very personally grateful. And as you know, if I have to winnow this show down, that selections down, it becomes very personal. You know, every show I've ever dealt with is personal one way or the other. This is a particularly hard kind because there's no theme, there's no medium, single medium, there's no way to sort of focus. And so what I realized as I thought about it, I default always to 2 basic things that are critical to me. One is the experimentation, probing, curiosity, possibilities of what a medium can do. You know, what kind of paint you use or the printmaking, how you can make it richer, fuller, different. And the other is very analogous in some ways, I think, which is approaching a theme in a very innovative way. You know, in Maryland, we have lots of sailboats, lots of birds, lots of Eastern Shore, lots of waterfront, stuff like that. You know, those can get really dreary. And it's so much fun and so rewarding to see how people approach them so creatively. And then the melding of the approach to the subject matter and the technique is what makes it, in my mind, a really interesting work of art. The bummer in this whole show is, of course, that I only got to pick about 60 works of art that would be shown. They really look great in the space. I did go down there, and I promise you that I have never juried a show online and not gone and looked at the actual works of art before I gave out awards. I won't, in fact, if I can't see it, because they are so different. So much of this depends upon photography, as most of you know. I have often sent artists back to rephotograph something if it's going to be juried that way, it really does matter. And the other is that no matter how experienced I am in 185 years of this, even if I read it is 12 by 14, I can envision 12 by 14. I can't always envision that piece in 12 by 14. So there's one, which is scale, and the other is texture. And those are things that just don't show in digital images, and that are to me very important in how the whole thing comes together. So there you have it. As I think I said in my statement, my choices are quirky. They're pieces that I just responded to particularly. I gave out 5 $100 jurors award and 5 honorable mentions because that's all they'd let me do. I think when I get really rich in my next life, I'm going to add more money to the jurors awards, but it's my next life, so whatever. So I think at this point, I thank you. I really thank you for letting me look at your work. I thank you for continuing to make the work. It is very important that you keep speaking out. It's artists who, as I said in the end, remind us of our shared humanity. And if we can't, with laughter and love, see the importance of our lives and the transcendent beauty of nature, then what are we doing here? So thank you. And I think now I'm supposed to go through the awards.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and give this award. This award has been sponsored by Susie and Rob Conley, who are longtime members of Maryland Federation of Art. And every member show, they award what's called the Conley Award for a 3D piece of art. And this fall member show, they are awarding it to Neil Caskey and Ghost Bowl. So Neil, thank you very much for submitting your work. It is a beautiful piece, and I'm actually staring at the actual piece right across the gallery as I say this. So thank you, Neil, and please continue to do your work because it's beautiful.
And thank you, Neil. I can echo that. This is a piece that you just want to hold in your hands. It's about hand-sized, and it's eloquent and elegant and very lovely piece. And thank you, Conley's, for giving it an award. All right. So now, Mama Rain. This piece I just love. This represents the Battle of Lafayette Square, which I had to go read about, and I recommend you do too. But I loved the figures, the coloration, the way they're aligned, the extraordinary piece of wood around it. It was just a very different kind of imagery and very individually and well done. Thank you. And if anybody wants to talk about any of these, just pipe up and do so. And if you're there and I'm blaspheming, you just, send me dirty, nasty messages or whatever. I just love this one. It spoke to me lots. I now know that Las Granadas are persimmons. And I also know that Deborah Cumberland can paint. This is just a phenomenal still life that would flatten most Dutch artists. It's tiny, it's beautiful, it's exquisitely painted. I also tried to do a range of works of art that involved a variety of media and sometimes subject matter. I could have picked 10 photographs, but I don't think that says much about what's going on in the arts in Maryland and what the MFA stands for. So I tried to spread the wealth around a bit. Jimmerl, Anacostia. I found this fascinating. It's a etching with color relief. And the fact that there's sort of this cross hatching on top of a pretty straightforward color etching really made it fascinating to me. It changed the texture, it changed the composition, and all the things I was sort of looking for in the beginning of what makes it different from an ordinary etching seemed to fit the bill. Plus, I have a kind of weakness for Anacostia, so hey.
I'd like to say a couple words about it. It's a new endeavor for me where I take a old black and white print and then slather color on it.
Oh, I like slather color.
And I'm very excited about being able to do this, and I'm glad to get the recognition. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And don't give up slathering color. And I really think the relief, the combination of the sort of cross hatching and the fields of color really make it work extremely well. I think you can get a lot of mileage out of this as a medium. Cool. Thanks.
Well, this is the first of several, I hope, I think.
Well, I look forward to seeing more since I do come down. I do escape Baltimore periodically and come to Annapolis in spite of the fact that you guys make it hard to park down there. So I look forward to seeing more. This one just had so much. This is called Splash. And it's, as you can see, acrylic on a wood panel. It's very small. It's, about a foot. But it had so much exuberance. And one of the things that I particularly liked is this is one where you see the surface of it so differently when you actually see it. And what you can't see in this reproduction is there's sort of spray all over it, as if she flung, she flipped her brush at it at the end. So that there's sort of little sparkles of water spray all over the surface as well. And it just embodied that exuberance of a young person crashing into the water and it all responding.
Thank you. I'm Sharon.
Hey,
And
Sharon, thank you.
yeah, it was fun to do. You got what I was going for, the enthusiasm of running in the water.
I also thought it was fun that occasionally the wood panel sort of showed through. You could see the surface wasn't, just primed canvas or something like that. So I like that. It's very textural.
Yeah, there's a few layers there. So that's what you're saying too. Thank you.
Thank you. The blue one. Mary, this is much richer when you see it than it is in the slide. It's, a couple of feet square, and it's an abstraction that really has some depth and content. And that's not easy. I don't, by the way, I don't paint. I'm an art historian. I learned 100 years ago, it's far easier to surround myself with artists and work with artists than to ever try and make any art myself. With a T-square and a triangle, I made it through college. I did architectural drawing, but that was about it. And so I really admire how people can develop and expand a medium to fit what they have to say. And I think in this case, she has created a piece that isn't just, an abstract nothing, but something that really has something to say. So, okay, those 5 were the honorable mentions. And as I said, when I'm rich, you will get awards for me. This is one that is one of the Jurors Awards. This is called Friends by Richard Neuwirth, and it's about 24 by 36. It's hanging on the wall as you come into the gallery and really is very commanding there. It's oil on canvas. What I love about it is, A, it's unbelievably well painted, but also it's something we've all seen and been around. I mean, there are these 4 guys standing there having a discussion about something in the midst of the rest of the world. And it's immediate, it's close up. You know that you kind of know these 4 people, and yet they're just sort of out there. And it's extremely strong and competent. Hard to argue with. I liked it a lot.
I'd like to say something about Richard Neuwirth.
Please.
He is one of my mentors.
Oh, cool.
And he's a terrific painter, and it's wonderful to see him get some recognition.
Well, I can't imagine that he hasn't had some. I mean, if you can paint like that, that's got to pull recognition from
I
somebody.
didn't mean to imply that he hasn't had.
No, I know. I'm teasing you.
He's had a lot.
That's a good mentor to pick, too.
I'm not sure who picked whom.
That's often the case, and one of the best things about our world, I think. Oh, Matt Fenton, thank you. This is, to me, one of those works that sort of meets every thought that I had earlier when I was saying how you can push a medium further than usual and how your subject matter can be so different. I know Harper's Ferry. We all know Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry doesn't really look like this. And yes, it is, yet it is like this. And this is a watercolor. And watercolors don't look like this. You know, watercolors are pretty and yeah. And this is tremendous detail, a lot of depth and perspective and all those tricky things. And I just thought it was a very impressive work of art. And I'm grateful to have been able to award it one of the Jurors Awards.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have to give some credit to my daughter, Kay Fenton, who actually is the sent me the photograph of this. She's not only an artist, she loves to hike, and she hiked up to Maryland Heights and this beautiful view of the two rivers and Harper's Ferry. So it took a while, but I really enjoyed painting this and all the detail.
Well, I mean, the combination, I mean, you know, watercolor, I think to most people isn't known for its quality, for its potential for detail. And you really hit it here. You know, you've got the immediate detail close in around the bridge and the rocks and everything. And then you've got that wonderful sort of endless space as the river goes out. And it's very, I think it's very lovely and very successful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much as well. Appreciate it.
And, you know, don't spend all that $100 in one place, Matt.
I'll be very careful.
Sorry, it's not bigger, but thank you. All I can tell you is sometimes the world enters in. This one cracked me up on one front. I mean, I was laughing so hard I could hardly see. I mean, Pigs at the Capitol, if I'd seen nothing, the title would have gotten me. But the mixed media qualities really are extraordinarily clever. I mean, it is quilted. You really need to go look at this because her quilting is lovely. Not only does she have the Capitol in the up, but the Capitol has a reflection below, and the quilting follows the lines of the building. And then there are these little metal pigs appended to it. And of course, there's all the barbed wire around. So, I mean, you know, and the day I was down there was the day they had to call off one of the January 6th hearings because of the weather or something. But it was sort of like, oh no, this is just too good. This is when the interests and abilities of the artist and the presentation all coincided with what's happening in our world today. And I thought, this is a winner anyway. I can't ignore it. And I love it. So thank you, Carol Williams.
Hi, Susan. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, there you are.
Thank you. I wanted to tell you that I am enjoying your sense of humor, and I'm glad that you appreciate mine. I do tend to think of my work as more like political cartoons, but instead of, you know,
It's a
pen
good
and ink,
description.
I would never be able to draw what I'm thinking, but it's done mostly with fabric and buttons. There are some other items that I've used, but honestly, when I first put this together, I was really thinking more about, there's a lot of metaphors that use pigs that go along with government, you know, pork barrel politics. There's capitalist pigs, but that's a different capital. And then there's also what we just went through with a lot of sexual infractions with people in government. So all of those things, they're right up there, but not as much as January 6th. So I'm glad you liked my take on that. The mounting that I have is just garden fencing, and it's all one piece. I twist it into different things, you know, to make it look a little bit better than just garden fencing. But one of the things about this piece is it's actually two pieces sewn together, as you could probably tell. And one of the things that I feel like it invokes is that movie Inception, where everything is off kilter and there's this symmetrical asymmetry to everything that the guy sees in this movie. I thought that that was also apt, that, you know, everything is just skewed one way or the other. So thank you. I truly
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you. One of the members of the group today sent in this note saying, "When Pigs Fly" would be another good title for this, which is quite apt. Thank you. I loved it.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to know how the garden fencing worked.
Yeah, it does. That's all I use exclusively. And I've come up with more designs with 1.5-inch squares than I ever thought I would be able to possibly think of. It's a blast. For anybody that's near Shepherdstown in West Virginia, I have a gallery there that is open on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's mostly everything is my political cartoon stuff, including the uterus, model plastic uterus in the window, surrounded by thorns from my honey locust tree that are, you know, a foot long. But anyway, that's my civic duty, I think, right about now.
You go, girl. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate it. And this is another one of the Jurors Awards. So you too have an extravagant amount of money to go out and lavish on the economy.
Capital.
Right. This one I just plain love, and I still have trouble explaining why. I think it's a combination of the lines and the reflection idea and the focusing in, that it's cropped in as tightly as it is, that I find so appealing. It's much bluer than this picture of it. And the blues, each blue in there is quite distinct. I like the fact that they're horizontal lines, vertical lines, diagonal lines, little bitty lines, big lines, you know, all that. And so often photographs don't do that much, or they have a bigger world that they're trying to take in. And I thought I just found the scale and approach of this very appealing. Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi.
Sorry, I couldn't get my video to work.
Hey.
Can you see me? Or am
No, I
just
can
blank?
I can see your black square.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Anyway,
wait for you to look quite like that, but
thank you for having this in my in the show here, and I also have a second piece in the show. And I should say that you know, I've been photographing easily over 50 years, and I've got a Google Pixel 5 smartphone, and what's so much fun is, like, this picture is right across, you know, this is the house next door to me. So my house is in the reflection. So what's fun, you know, I have a waterfront on the Severn River. Well,
oh, poor you.
Yeah, poor me. I am actually doing front yard photography in my neighborhood.
Huh.
And this is one of them. The other piece that's in the show, you know, my wife and I, we walk our dog, and especially when it's wet outside, it's amazing the different images that you can capture. And so again, thank you very much for having
Well, thank you. And I mean, to each of you, thank you for sharing your work with me and us in this case. And it's really, and keep at it, because it's really fun and interesting work. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Convergence. This is one of those ones where it kept growing on me. I looked at it, and I looked at it in the reproduction, which is what you're looking at too. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And I, you know, then I included it in the show. And when I went down to give out the awards, it was not on the long list of possibilities necessarily. And the more I saw it in the flesh, as it were, I realized that it was really very effective and very cool in the way the figures on the right and the center emerge and what's going on in the back. And it just grew on me and grew on me completely. And thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome. Thank you, Susan, very much. I have been told that my paintings are not an easy read. So I And they usually have, they're dense with content, which I could not ever hope to write up at some point sensibly, but I'm glad you took the time and were
Well,
interested enough to keep looking. So thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank you. I think, not being an easy read is probably a very positive thing. And I think it's part of an ongoing problem, which I'm sure all of you see all the time, which is that in this country, we seem to, as a culture, value the word over the image. And, the amount of times in my years in museums and even at MICA, less at MICA, but certainly in the 3 museums, where people would say, well, I don't get it. What's it supposed to be? And you spend forever trying to explain to them that it's not supposed to be anything, that it isn't necessarily something you are to get. I mean, there's no topic sentence behind it. There's no, this is the only way you can look at it. That, you spend forever explaining to people that artists are offering you a way of looking at something if you will take the time to do it. And this, Elaine, bears out what you were just saying, that sometimes you begin to discover how it works for you. And how it works for me, Susan, may not be the slightest bit related to what you were thinking when you painted it, Elaine. And that's neither here nor there. I mean, when people say, well, what was the artist thinking? Who the hell knows? Every artist I know says, well, I just had to do it. And when you ask them about titles, I mean, that they sort of throw across the room at things sometimes, but we are so word oriented as a culture that we're afraid of just looking at something visual and saying, I like it, and then thinking about why I like it, trying to articulate. I mean, one of the things I think you've done so nicely here is the range of color. I mean, you've got all those tonal beige to browns and stuff and a little bit of red, and then there's that yellow front and center that really doesn't connect, but totally connects and pulls it all together. And this is, this is what people just aren't willing to just do. And I don't know how we get them there, as long as we tell them that art is something that only some people understand.
And I also purposely don't put a lot in the titles when I'm doing it, or put a ton of words out
Right.
in advance, because I want the imagination of everyone to be invited to play, to not like it, to love it, to scratch their heads at it, and just think and feel differently, I guess. It was kind of,
I think you speak for an awful lot of artists that way. I mean, it's, yeah, they'd kind of like you to like it. They would really like you to buy it. But I mean, but that it's not why they're doing it.
right.
I don't think any of you are making art to make me happy as the person looking at it. You're making it because you need to make it, because you have something to say, that you think what you're putting out there, other people can respond to. And I think that's what it's all about and why it's so important. So thank you, Elaine, for adding such great comments to that.
Welcome. Thank you so much. And
Yes,
thanks for all
I
the
agree.
time.
Happy spending all that $100. Do you guys want to talk more? Do you have things to say, any of you? Do you want to yell and scream and piss and moan about the fact that I didn't give you a prize? I'm tough. Ever since I took on some lady out in Frostburg one time, who backed me into a corner and told me I had no business ever jurying a show again, because I hadn't noticed that her work of art had not been shown to me appropriately, that it was meant to have been in a corner where the walls were painted lavender behind it. And that was when I learned not to roll my eyes when talking to people.
I just want to say that looking through the gallery, the online gallery, that is just so impressive, the work that is there. And I knew it had to be hard to whittle down, all of those pieces of artwork.
It is, but you guys make good art, Mary. It makes it easier. I mean, there are a lot
I'm glad to be included with such a great group.
It really
Me
looked
too.
good, and kudos to Laura and Julie and the staff in there, because they hung, this is really well hung. They made pieces look even better than they might have in other instances. And, you know, that's tricky when you've got stuff that is totally other, disparate, that they're not, you know, they're not all still lifes, or they're not all one medium or something like that. And this is such a disparate group. And I certainly added to that by my decisions. And I think they did a brilliant job of hanging it. I
So
mean,
Susan,
each piece-
I'd like to take a second and just recognize one of those folks who's actually on the line, Sharon Arsenault, who
Oh, I remember
helps
you,
place
Sharon.
all of our exhibitions for hanging. So part of that is due to her credit for sure.
Thank you, Sharon. Excuse me for not knowing that you'd been in there masterminding. No, I mean, it's an interesting space. You know, as you know, I've done a bunch of shows down there, and each one manages to be very successful. I think the ability to move your walls a little, the shapes and spaces that you have really allow you to do much more than one would think. You know, it's so much more effective than just sort of, you know, white walled box. And it allows for the variety of mediums and scale and subject matter topic. So thanks.
I would like to add to what Mary said too. When I looked at the show, I was blown away, you know, so I was honored to be a part of it because it was so different. It didn't have all the things that I expect to see. You know, there wasn't the traditional, whenever I get booklets from shows I've entered or whatever, you can almost pick. There might be a clown painting and not aspersions on anything, but there might be a Western scene, but this show was so different and exciting visually for me. So thank you for your picks, and I'm honored to be in the show.
Well, thank you, and thank your colleagues for giving me good stuff to choose from. Hey, you know, it's easy once it's there. If you have to conjure it, it's a little harder. I was impressed at how great it looked when I walked in. I went, wow, all right. Anybody else? Anybody want to talk about any particular piece or why I left you out, which I probably did, since the best thing of all of this, of course, is you have when you do this, you have no idea whose work you're dealing with. You just get the art and some stupid ass number that, you know, 17423 lower dash 4, which means it was the 4th by that person or something. But it really was fun to then see it and choose it, you know, and put them up and see some names that were familiar, others that are totally new to me, for which I'm grateful. And thank you for expanding my world. And you guys do good work. And as I said, the arts are clearly very much alive and well in Maryland. Kimmy McLean says, if you're not getting it, thank you for providing this virtual opportunity.
Do you have any final words, Susan?
Oh, go in peace, keep making art, you know, all those things.
Well, with that, I want to thank everybody. As she said, you know, we have some incredibly talented members, and so we're very lucky and very thankful for each of you. Please join us here in Circle October 15th for the closing reception for this show from 4 to 6. I hope to see you all here over the next couple of weeks, and definitely for the reception.
Thank you. And thank you all for keeping this organization going so vitally. I mean, there are a lot of you out there, and the choices that come in and the shows that you put together and the work that starting with the work that you offer, really, it's impressive. And thank you to Anne and all the board members and the staff for everything they do to keep you all out there in front of the public. It's cool. I mean, when I was down there, there must have been 10 people, not to mention the 5 UPS guys who came in and took a whisk through the show, all of whom just came in and wandered through. One lady asked what the Post-its were, which was when I was trying to organize myself. But other than that, they just were fascinated to look. And these are people who just happened by on the whole. One was an older woman who's just started painting. And her son, who came with her, and I were encouraging her to keep painting, and that gave her the brochure and told her to go home and think about next year's, submitting something when she felt more confident. And it was sort of like, oh, you can do that? And I said, yeah. I mean, these people, some of them haven't been painting for 100 years. Some are just starting and trying things, and that's what it's all about. So keep encouraging other people, and thank you all, and thank the MFA. And since you're all members of it, thank you, thank you. It was fun to do, and I look forward to meeting you all again and again and again. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.